All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be talking about boxing media. And this is going to probably be a not very popular video. However, it is what it is. Something that I think that is really important to the sport of boxing. And understand that I most definitely have a tinfoil hat on in this video because I've just been seeing things and seeing how certain criticisms drop in corporate media, the corporate media at specific times. And there was a big exchange taking place between the president of Showtime Sports, whose name is Stephen Espinoza, and Dana White, who runs the UFC, the biggest MMA promotional company that there is. And it just seems to me that, again, silver hat, what do you call it, a tinfoil hat on again, that the UFC is trying to sabotage boxing. And it looks like it's doing it through media members that cover both sports, that cover both the MMA and cover boxing, because that's the only reason why I can continue to see these rumors being thrown around. But this particular time, it comes out in a big exchange between the two people that are running the two biggest outfits really in boxing right now. One obviously is running the network, and the other one is running the UFC or the promotional outfit. But still, what are six on one hand, half dozen the other? These guys clearly have competing interests, and I think the UFC is probably playing it a little underhanded. Now, let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the business of boxing, and specifically all of these rumors that keep going on around about Showtime Boxing going out of business, Al Heyman going out of business, boxing falling apart, how we're not making big fights, all of these different things that continually are said, primarily over there on ESPN. But also by writers that represent the MMA when they start talking about boxing for 5 seconds, right? Or boxing promoter or boxing media people that cover both sports fairly equally. And I think that it is meant to tear down the marketability of fighters, of boxing organizations, and I have a suspicion that it is done very purposefully. So before I get into the details of it, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. It really does make a big difference, especially on videos like this where there's not going to be a lot of people listen to it. But I just got to share this because, man, because it is my attempt, right? Again, like I said in the beginning, this is tinfoil hat stuff, but honestly, it's not really too far off. I think this is very sound observation, and it has a more than a slight probability that it is true. And that is this, that the UFC is competing with boxing for the hearts and the minds of fight fans, of combat sports fans, and that Dana White or people associated with him who are constantly in with the media, who have very deep media relations, are using their influence to sully their competitor. Now, that's not unheard of at all. You see it within boxing. You see it where Bob Arum is saying, I don't even know who Al Heyman is. He's a ghost. Right? Like, there's a myth that he's actually a person. I don't even believe he's a person, right? That's Bob Arum versus Al Heyman, even though Bob Arum sued Al Heyman. So he knows very well that he's a real person. Seeing as Bob Arum can come to conclusions and reached agreements for boxing matches before, like the biggest pay-per-view ever between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr., even though he said that You know full well who he knows who he is, right? So there's the Eddie Hearn dumping on everybody, right? So, and that's within the sport of boxing. So it's not unreasonable to assume that it also exists between the UFC and boxing, because they're competitors. You see Dana White saying that all kind of stuff about Bob Arum. So there's been rumors going on around, consistent rumors, that from media people that deal with both the UFC and the PBC, right? And boxing, that Showtime's going out of business. Now, this latest one is right before the Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo pay-per-view. This is right after the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford pay-per-view. And that was right after Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. All of these are huge events. You've literally had Showtime with its best year that it has ever had. But yet in the media, there's a constant drumming of, hey, these guys are about to go out of business. This time, they were going out of business all last year. Before every fight, during every conversation, is how they're failing. This business is failing. That business is, and just change the words to this from exactly why to just the overall statement that they're doing poorly. They're doing poorly. They're doing poorly. We don't care how successful any particular event is. They're doing poorly. They're doing poorly. They're about to close. That is instilling doubt in the fans of that sport. Consistently. So in this particular exchange that took place yesterday, Dana White asked a question that was a softball. Somebody says, hey, what do you think about the rumors of Showtime Boxing going out of business? Again, right? Again. But he says, well, it's just a shame. But it's about time it's a shame that they're going out of business. Because of that terrible product that they have, that horrible product that they have. Now, mind you, man, they've been saying this about them for years. So why does he go from, why would that man go from there being rumors to his statement is that it's true? Also, there was somebody that was a UFC channel that confirmed it. He said, I can confirm that after 2024, the PBC, the Showtime is not committed to anything after 2024 because of these statistics. Dude, you can't confirm anything. You don't work for Showtime. All you can do is confirm that and he made it such a grand statement, after several calls over the pond. You mean you picked up the phone and somebody picked it up in another country? That somehow leads to the legitimacy of your observation that they have, that you don't have, that you can't confirm because you don't work for the parties involved. Anyway, all of this to me seems like a calculated effort between, number one, boxing promoters who compete with the PBC and compete with Showtime, like Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum. Even though Bob Arum has not said anything about this. Eddie Hearn did, though. And somebody else that competes against all of boxing, which is Dana White. What the boxing people need to realize is that doesn't do boxing any good for you to continue to tear down the biggest portion of the business and continue to say it's failing. And it just like it doesn't do boxing any good when Mike Coppinger and ESPN continue write a series of articles about how boxing is dying, when everybody full wells know that the real bread and butter over there at ESPN is the UFC and not boxing. But whatever, man. Cut off your nose to spite your face, is what I say. But at the end of the day, the UFC and boxing, I'm not worried about that competition. Never has been. Never have been. Because I'm going to tell you why. My personal opinion is boxing has the better product. It has the better sport. MMA they have a good system which allows these guys to make money and they have great production around the actual event. But the events themselves, the actual sport themselves, no, man. I think boxing is a better sport. And it's been successful for a lot longer, and it has been successful with multiple promoters running it. The UFC, MMA is really taking off with the UFC. So we don't know if the UFC stays around, goes away, whether or not MMA is going to stick around. And there are life cycles to every business. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.